Hey everybody, Ash here for the Triple S League, and welcome to this guide to finding all of the skulls in Halo Infinite. There are 12 skulls hidden throughout the game. These are collectibles that are saved between playthroughs, and you can activate them before starting a new campaign playthrough, and it'll produce special effects in the game. 7 of the skulls are found in the open world, and 5 are in story missions. And those 5 are missable if you don't collect them as you're going through the mission. You can't go back and get them on the same playthrough. You'd have to start a new playthrough currently. Apparently, the ability to replay story missions is going to be coming at some point in the future. Regardless, I'm going to show you how to get all of the story mission and open world skulls. And the very first skull is in the very first mission of the game. It's the Boom Skull. As you're fighting your way through Warship Gbraakon, the first mission of the game, you'll come to this hallway where a whole bunch of jackals come running at you. And then you'll come to this room that has an upper and lower level. There's a bunch of enemies in here you'll probably want to clear out before grabbing the skull. To get to the skull, head up this way onto the second level, and move along to this second elevator thing where, you know, these containers are being raised up. Hop on here, and you'll be raised up on top of this other container where you'll find the skull. This is the Boom Skull, which doubles the radius of explosions when it's active. Getting down from here is actually trickier than getting up. You kind of have to wait until the elevator's moving up again, and then you can just kind of sneak down between the containers. The second skull is in the second mission, Foundation. After picking up the weapon, you'll come to this room where you have these creepy child holograms all around. The skull is in the next room. Just go through this hallway, and once you get to this big open area, the skull is way high above you. You can see it right there where I've scanned. The most consistent way I've found to get up to where the skull is to grapple up like this, and grapple up to the second surface on this big pillar thing, and then grapple one more time like this, and letting your momentum carry you up to where the skull is. That's the most consistent way I've figured out of how to get up there. This is the Cowbell Skull. It increases acceleration from explosions. Why it's called the Cowbell Skull, I'm not sure. I think there's an inside joke there somewhere. Anyway, from here you can carry on without fear of missing any more skulls. The next 7 skulls I'm going to show you are all accessible in the open world, and then the final 3 are also going to be found in story missions, but they don't happen until much later in the game, so I will show you those last. There's no set order to how you have to collect the skulls that are in the open world, although a couple of them need flying vehicles, which you may not gain access to until later on. The ones that I was able to get without flying vehicles, I will show you how to get them without flying vehicles. However, I do recommend upgrading your grapple shot at least twice, which requires a total of 3 Spartan cores. That second grapple shot upgrade gives you a lower cooldown for your grapple shot, which is very helpful and may even be necessary to reach some of these. So just bear that in mind. First up, we have the IWHBYD skull. Stands for I would have been your daddy. Definitely an inside joke happening here. This skull makes rare combat dialogue happen more often. This one's right on top of the tower, which is one of the first locations that you'll go to once you enter the open world. Now, you could easily come back later with a flying vehicle if you want, but if you want to climb the tower, here's how I did it, starting from the east side. Once you're up here, the skull is right in the middle. Plus, there's a fun Easter egg that I'll let you find for yourself. Next is the Blind Skull. This one hides your HUD and your weapon if it's active. It's down in the southwest corner of the map, where you have what looks like a gorge running right through a mountain. We are going to start right at the indicator for the Carrera Squad. To the south of you is this mountain, and the first step of your trip here is going to be basically getting up on top of it. My preferred way to go is to go around the right-hand side of it like this. You'll arrive at this canyon that runs roughly north-south, and you can start climbing the eastern cliff face. It's not too difficult. There are a lot of handholds and platforms. Just be careful not to fall. It's another good reason to upgrade the grapple shot. Eventually you'll run out of surfaces on the canyon wall, and so you'll need to actually start climbing up the mountain itself. Now you're probably thinking, why not just take a flying vehicle up here? And, well, I mean, you're welcome to do that if you want. I mean, I'll show you where the skull is, and you can just fly there if you want. It's one of those cases where the flying vehicle makes it easier, but isn't absolutely necessary, so I'm just going to show you the way that doesn't require the flying vehicle. You want to end up right about here. We're still a fair distance from the skull, but the hard part's over now. Just head off in this direction. I'm just going to speed this up so you don't have to watch 30 seconds of walking. You'll eventually get to a point where there's more hexagonal columns sticking out of the cliffs. Your destination is right down there. Now to reach it, you'll want to hop a little closer. Now you want to leap out as far as you can. You got to be quick with the grapple shot, and there's a good chance that you'll die a couple of times trying this. Anyway, once you're successfully here, the skull is just sitting in this little alcove here. Very easy to get to. As for getting out of here, you could, of course, fast travel, or it is possible to continue along this way and climb back up. Next is fog. This one disables the motion tracker, and it's located on the west side of the map, almost due west of Fob Alpha, and that's where we're going to start. It's a good fast travel point to start from. An easy way to go from here is to head south to the road that runs right nearby the Fob.
We're following you, sir.
Follow it along for a little bit, and then start heading along this rocky path that runs along the side of the mountain, keeping the mountain on your right. And eventually you'll get to a place where you have more hexagonal columns. I'm going to slow this down to real time just so that you don't get lost in here. There's not much my commentary can add here, so I'll just show you the path to take to get to where the skull is. It gets a little bit confusing in here. We're heading into a cavern made of these pillars that is a little bit of a maze. This is another situation where a flying vehicle would make it easier if you want to go that route, but if you do want to just climb and use your grapple shot, here's how you can do it. The skull's right here. There's a few weapons in this area as well. To get out, you can just jump down like this, and you're back on the platform you were on before entering the cavern. Next is the Thunderstorm skull, which upgrades the rank of most enemies. There's a beacon nearby, which you could fast travel to if you want to start there. But in case you haven't unlocked that as a fast travel point yet, I am going to start at Fob Juliet. And it's a bit of a trek, so we're going to go for a drive. And I'm going to bring some backup in case we encounter any enemies along the road. Follow the creek like this for a bit, and then just skip across some grass to this road. Head northward. Right about here, you'll encounter an intersection. Turn right and continue following the road. When you see the beacon right in front of you like this, you're going to stop following the road. Look for this pillar, and that's your destination, right on the top there. If you've upgraded your grapple shot like I advised, then it's very easy to scale right up the side of these pillars. So the skull's right on top here, and you may be noticing a theme. Obviously, a flying vehicle would make this very easy, as long as you know where to look, but not required. The final one we can get to on foot in the open world is the Black Eye Skull, which makes it so that your shields only recharge when you melee attack enemies, which sounds like an absolute nightmare. But as far as finding this one, it's as cliche as possible. It's hidden behind a waterfall. So we're going to start at Fob Kilo. Head out of the base more or less straight north, and then follow this path. And when you get to the edge of the cliff here, just hop straight down. Then head for this body of water, and you can follow this stream along. It'll take you right to the waterfall. There's a small cave partway up the waterfall. You could try grappling to it right from the ground, but I find it, if you want to know what you're aiming for, it's helpful to hop up onto the rocks along the side here. You can see the ledge you're aiming for right there. And then just crawl inside. You'll find the skull. And a big question mark as you wonder how these brutes got in here. The next two skulls in the open world are located on islands that require flying vehicles to get to, at least as far as I can tell. I tried getting to both by just jumping and grappling over the gaps, but it did not work. First we'll do the catch skull, which is on the island to the far north of the map, on the western side. I'm going to start at the closest fob, which is Fob Alpha, and call in a Wasp here. Now, really, you can get any flying vehicle. You could steal a Banshee from the Banished if you want, but once you've gained enough valor by doing activities in the open world, you can call in a Wasp at any fob. There are some Banshees flying around above these cliffs. You can avoid them by sliding a bit to the right here. By the way, this has been sped up quite a bit. So fly to the far northwest of the map. You're going to pass Outpost Tremonius, which you see on the right there. So this island is kind of shaped like a boomerang. And just before it starts to curve east here, in the cradle of these mountains, there's a small lake hidden in this gorge. Now, when I got here, there were a couple of hunters and some other enemies nearby. I don't know if it was a random spawn or if they're always here. You might want to deal with them before hopping down to get the skull, or you could just run in and grab it if you want. By the way, this is the catch skull, which makes enemies drop and throw more grenades. If you run a little ways into the gorge, you'll find this hollowed out tree stump that has the skull in it. And a bunch of other skulls. Creepy. Finally, the last skull in the open world is the Famine skull. This one cuts the amount of ammo in weapons dropped by your enemies in half, and it's located on a small island way on the east side of the map. We're going to start at Fob November, and once again call in a Wasp. You can basically just head due east. I'm not sure why I went around the left side of this beacon, since the island is actually a little bit to the south. In any case, all you have to do is land on this ledge right here. And then behind that boulder, you'll find the skull. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the final 3 skulls are in 3 of the final missions of the game. One of those is the Mythic skull, which gives enemies increased health, and that is in the Command Spire mission. You'll come to a room where these hexagonal pillars are traveling horizontally, and then making a right-hand turn. Continue through the room like this. Until you get to the point where they're making another right-hand turn. Grapple up on top of one, and then get up into this gap in the ceiling. There are a couple of ledges above you now. One of them has a door that'll take you right to the skull. In the repository mission, which immediately follows the command spire, you'll find the Grunt birthday party skull, which is pretty hilarious. You get a little celebration sound and a burst of confetti when you headshot a Grunt. This one's a little more complicated. It has 2 steps you need to complete. First off, you'll arrive at this room that has a light bridge leading across to a central platform where there's a control panel that you can activate. You'll get a cutscene here with the weapon and some other stuff I won't spoil. After which, another light bridge will appear straight ahead of you. Some enemies will come through the door ahead of you. You'll probably want to deal with them before proceeding. Now, to the left and right of you are some platforms with doors similar to the ones ahead of and behind you, but these ones are not connected by light bridges. You'll want to start by jumping across to the one on the right. In here is a power seed. You'll want to grab that, and you're going to need to get it all the way across to the other door. However, carrying it slows you down, and you don't get the same distance with your grapple shot. So the only way I was able to get it across was to throw it across here like this, then grapple across. Carry it across the bridge back to the center platform, then toss it across the gap onto the platform to the left. And by the way, if you do drop it into the void, it does respawn back where you got it from. Anyway, once you've got it over here, carry it through the door. And to your right, in this big room, will be a cradle for the power seed. Once you've placed the power seed where it goes here, then you've completed the first stage of getting to the skull. Head back to the room with the central pillar and carry on through the mission until you get to this room. There will be a bunch of enemies here when you first arrive. I've cleared them out already. Hop up here. Now, if you hadn't placed the power seed earlier, then this opening will be blocked off. But if you have placed the power seed, then it's open and you can get to the skull that's in here. Now, there are a bunch of elites with swords and active camo, so you'll have to contend with them. But then you can just grab the skull and be on your way. Finally, there's the Bandana skull, which is in the final mission, the Silent Auditorium. This one is fairly straightforward, except that you can't kill any sentinels in this mission before getting to the skull, or you won't be able to get it. You can kill other enemies, but you cannot kill any sentinels. If you're not sure what I mean, I'm talking about these guys here. All you do is, when you get to this room, activate the bridges and go across to this door. Now, the kicker is that if you've killed any sentinels, the door will be locked and you won't be able to get in. And that's the final skull. By the way, this one gives you infinite ammo and grenades and removes all equipment cooldowns. So unlike the others, it actually makes the game easier. Although, after playing on Legendary with all 12 skulls active, I have to think they added this one simply because without it, it would be literally impossible. And there is an achievement you can get for beating Legendary story missions with all 12 skulls active. But let me tell you, it is pretty insane. And the hardest part I'm finding is that there's no HUD and you can't see your weapons. You don't know where your shields are at. You have to remember which grenade and which weapon you've got equipped at the moment. So let me know in the comments if you're going to be trying that or what your intention is. If you're just collecting the skulls as a collectible or if you actually intend to use them. And also, please do slam that like button and subscribe if you found this video helpful. That really helps us out. More Halo Infinite content available on the channel, and of course, let us know what you'd like to see. Check out the Discord server and everything else. Links are in the description below. And thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you again very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, sub, and hit that notification bell. And then check out some of these other videos. Find the link to our Discord server and other important stuff in the description below.